Hi, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Liv.
And this is the Mach-E Vlog.
And this is the Rivian R2 that was just announced right now, but that is not all that was announced, so let's check it out.
So the R2 is behind us. That's why we were here today. That's what was announced. Everybody was so excited about the R2, and we were excited by it. But down there's also an R3. So there was two exciting announcements today. Actually, sort of three, because there's also an R3X. But let's start with the R2. I think for me, my biggest question was like, how does it compare in size to the R1S specifically? And even though it looks very, very similar, like if you're just looking at some of the leaked photos that we saw like a week ago, it looks similar, but like seeing it in person, the size feels significant.
And that's one of the amazing things about this big reveal is that stuff was leaked. So there was this whole big hubbub that someone found the source code on the Rivian website. So everyone thought they knew.
Ooh, it's moving.
It's moving. Oh, it's moving.
Sorry.
Everyone thought they knew what was going to happen, but some things were a surprise. So for one, this is going to start at $45,000 and it's going to have an estimated range of 300 miles plus.
300 miles plus, I think they said for every trim level.
Yeah.
So that's really good.
That's really huge. Yeah. What else was a surprise after the?
That was it. So like a lot of the things that were leaked, we haven't actually, you guys may already have it. We should probably check the website. But
was it 0 to 60 of 3 seconds?
3 seconds.
Which they confirmed. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We have this gorgeous, more petite than the R1S, and that's all that we thought that we were getting. And then, holy cannoli, they threw a loop for everyone. I think like there were gasps in the crowd. People were cheering.
My mouth was open. Like we've been to a few of these now.
Yeah.
But when they announced, so they were like, we were going to introduce something else, and I thought it was the R1T. We're going to pause. We're going to have to go in a second. But we knew something else was coming. We could tell something was coming. I thought it might be an R2T, like a truck version. But then they showed the R3 and an R3X. So that's the ones that just floored us. Mouth was open as we were, gasped, everything. So it was a big surprise. You guys thought you got all the leak ahead of time, but no one leaked that there was an R3 coming.
Yeah, and so now starts some exciting stuff. We're gonna get a talk and a walkthrough with the chief designer. So let's check it out.
Thank you everybody for coming here. Really excited to talk about R2 and give a little bit of more information and depth on the design of the vehicle. So when we're looking at R2 and anything Rivian, we want something to make sure that we're looking at human-centered design. So how do people use it? What are the pain points? How can we improve on everyday life and usability with our vehicles? We obviously created that with the R1, and with R2 we really wanted to expand and build off of what everybody from our customers, from our feedback, really came to love and appreciate from R1. We wanted to make it, obviously, smaller, more maneuverable, but more main thing being able to access to more people. And one of the things for us, one of the key things for us with R2 is that, and not just R2, but our products in general, is how can we incorporate form follows function? Now, when I say that, there's a lot of different areas that we really look at, right? Working very closely, very early on with our engineering team. And when you look at the overall silhouette of the vehicle, there was a lot of decisions back and forth. What should the centerline look like? We tried many different proposals, but in the end, we really felt we wanted to build off of what was successful about R1 and maintain that very iconic two-box silhouette. The overall proportions of the vehicle are a lot more athletic when you look at the overall proportions. And there's things like we have very short front and rear overhangs, really big wheels and tires. These are 32-inch wheels and tires. We have 250 millimeters of ground clearance and 25 degrees angle of approach angle and 27 degrees rear departure angle. And this is something that you can definitely use this, and you're not worried about getting it dirty, taking it off-road, but then obviously making sure that on-road dynamics are phenomenal. And a lot of things, obviously, for this to make sure we maintain our range, because efficiency, as you all know, is extremely important for EVs. And with R2, there was also no exception. So we were working very closely with our aerodynamics team, doing CFD analysis really early on to make sure we're finding these key elements that are required for aerodynamics, but really incorporating them into the design of the vehicle. Like one example, which you know, if you guys could see from the top, was the roof line really does drop down into this pass-through spoiler. And this pass-through spoiler gave us quite a huge benefit in terms of CFD, in terms of reducing that, and once again, giving us more range. The air guides on the front of the vehicle, we really integrated them into the design of the vehicle to make sure we celebrated the design. We're taking these functional requirements and really making them design features. So from the one that goes into the front, comes out the side, we use this to create our little brand language right there with our Rivian badge, and that design language carried through into the rear bumper. So just looking at these different areas, where can we take a requirement, a functional requirement, and really celebrate that? One of the other ones I'm really excited about is this feature line here that we have for the hood cut line. So one of the requirements in Europe is a requirement for pedestrian protection. That basically means when the occupant hits it, is there a form and room for the hood to deflect? And that required us to have the cut line on the side of the vehicle. So knowing that, even before we put pen to paper, we knew that this requirement was something we had to address. So with that, we took that character line that was required for the hood and integrated it into the main theme of the car. So we took this main line and it goes all the way into the back. It really gives the R2 a very athletic and muscular feel to it. Once again, taking something that was a requirement and really improving off of that. The other thing that we spent a lot of time on, which is great that people probably don't notice it, is the second row door. Being able the vehicle to be open and areas was something for us as a Rivian brand. You won't see something in our vehicles where the rear glass doesn't drop completely. And if you look at a lot of cars that in this segment, they either don't have full glass drop, or in order to enable it, you have to have a div bar. You can see the div bars there, which kind of is in your face. So we spent a lot of time packaging and working with the engineering team to find a way that we could put the wheelbase in the right place, the occupants in the right place, the B-bar in the right place. And with our design language of this body color seat pillar, it enabled us to come up with something that requires no div bar, has the glass go all the way down, and most of all for us, and really important when we're looking at this, back on the idea that we want to make this vehicle more accessible to others, it reduces cost. So now we're not paying for div bar, we're not paying for another piece of glass, but we're still giving the same user experience. So that for us is also really important. The other thing when we look at the glass being open is we want to look at what other design decisions does that enable. And being open air experience was something that was really important for us as a Rivian. Being in the vehicle is one thing. You want to be able to enjoy the interior, but more importantly, enjoy the outdoors, see outside of it. So when you're inside our vehicles, we have a very, very low belt line, big tall glass. Our tumble home, which is basically called the angle of the side of the glass, is very vertical. This way, when you're inside the vehicle, it makes it feel very, very spacious, which is really important for us. And building off of that, then what are the other opportunities we could do to provide some of that functionality and open airness? So as you guys saw, I just showed the glass drops, but then this glass pops open. But it isn't just for the ability to have this open air experience. We looked at other user cases, and that's something we do quite a lot in Rivian. You can probably see with a lot of our software updates. We love hearing feedback from our customers. And like, what are the things we could do? What are the areas where we could improve? So if you guys have ever done this before, I personally have done this in other cars where, going to Home Depot, you have a DIY project, and if you guys know this, have ever done it before, is baseboard trim comes in 16-foot lengths. So trying to pack that into a car is pretty sketchy. So for the R2, the front seat folds forward, the rear seats fold back, and obviously having the glass out here allows you to hang something out there that's a lot safer. Another little detail that I really, really love, which you guys may not be able to see, I can show it later, is this little flip-up table that we've added here. And the flip-up table here is basically, so if you're in the vehicle and you have a cup of coffee or something you want to set down and have some drinks, you're able to use this table and it goes right back into place. This is something personally that I've done many times on my R1T where I've got a drink, a cup of coffee. I really don't like putting a cup of coffee or a drink on the body paint, so I usually put it on the bed rail. We don't have a bed rail, obviously, on an SUV, so we looked at how else can we provide that functionality in a way that's obviously more useful. Talking about continuing on the idea of form, folds, functions, open the door here for a second. On the interior, is like how can we simplify things? And not only simplify things from a design perspective, but also from a cost perspective, and not in a way that's immediately recognizable. We're not trying to make this thing feel or look cheaper. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure it's very usable, but also still core to our brand and is premium. Even just the way we use wood. If you look at this wood IP here, we like to treat wood like furniture. And if you look at some other products out there, it's like, well, wood is a decorative wood sphere. It's something that's on there. If you were to take it off, you wouldn't miss it. With our vehicle, the R2, it literally holds the screen. It creates the shape for the vents. If you were to take that out, literally the instrument panel will fall apart. No, so not only is it structural and part of the overall design, it's beautiful. Continuing on to other areas, you obviously know we have a flashlight. Adventure products is something that's very important for us. We also have in the same location, we're going to be offering other accessories we want to build off that. We have a USB charger / hand warmer that we're going to be introducing that goes in this exact same spot. We loved on R1 is the expandable door mount pockets. So being able to put things in there that are larger that could probably fit, but also easy to clean. Being easy to clean for us is something that is also very important. We took the speakers out of the door panel. You can see there's no center speaker here, the door speakers, and we moved them to the middle of the center console. So not only do you get great sound, you've now provided more opportunity to have larger water bottles in the door panel. In the other little items, we said, where else can we store? So if you look in the bottom of this door panel here, we also have an area where we can put sunglasses or wallets, keys, anything you want to, that's very easily accessible. Interior quality and color materials is something that's also very important to us when we're looking at it. We want our cars to feel premium, but not premium in a way that you're afraid to get them dirty. So you won't find gloss black in our interiors. Gloss black, as you all probably know, gets smudged. You got to wipe it down constantly, and that's not something that we wanted to have in our cars, and it's intentional through that. Even the flooring materials, we have a woven textile flooring material here, which is very easy to clean for whether it's sand, dirt, pet hair. It's also water repellent. Building off of what we did with R1, once again, you can see our Chillowich floor mats here, which I personally love. I mean, I have mine in my R1T now that I've had for almost 3 years now. I have not cleaned them once. I just take them out, kind of shake them off. But if you want to clean them, you can just hose them out, which is something, once again, it feels premium, but very, very easy to clean. So one other thing I'd like to touch on a little bit is back to that point around human-centric design is our software. We want to make sure with everything we're doing in our vehicles, we're taking a lot of technology inside of our platform, and we want to make it very easy for people to use. And that's one thing that I hope everybody that's ever experienced or even feels that and want to continue that and expand upon it with R2 is when you get into the car, even though it has a lot of technology, we don't want it to be in your face and we want it to be easy to use. So one of the things I'm really excited about talking about is our steering wheel controls. Our steering wheel controls, as I already said, I wish you could play with them, but they're actually a large wheel that you can touch from both the back and the front. It basically rotates on both sides of it. So it's just one big rotary dial. But it has different areas of motion. So you can press it in, pull it out, rotate it, and go side to side. It all works through haptic feedback, and I think that's really cool about it is that it's contextual. So if you're raising your volume, you'll see there'll be tiny little clicks that are there. If you're going through a menu, not only do you get the haptic feedback, you also get the visual. So as you click through a menu or something's coming up, you'll feel the detents change to that. When you get to the top of the menu, the rotary dial will stop, giving you a haptic indication that you're at the top of the menu. So you're getting visual and you're getting the haptic feeling of it. Just one of these ways that makes it really intuitive to use, offers us a lot of opportunity to offer new software features as we continue to develop the vehicles. It's one of the things I think is really powerful about what we do at our brand is the vehicle is constantly changing and evolving to improve the user experience of the vehicle. Adventure, key part of our brand. With R2, R2 especially because we want this to be more accessible to more people. We really want to focus on what does adventure mean? An adventure doesn't just mean going camping or surfing. I mean, an adventure could be going to the beach. If you've ever gone with some kids to IKEA trying to load boxes into it, I mean, that's an adventure in itself. So really thinking about what are the everyday adventures that the people are using and how can we better suit those. So back to how we're saying how we can load different things, being able to fold the seats flat, so if you wanted to camp inside of it, but just also building off of our roof ports. So our roof ports here are carried over from R1, and one of the things that I love about our roof ports is that it's very easy to install. They don't require any tools. They can be done with one person and they store inside of the vehicle. So when we were working on R2 and R3, we really want to think about how do we add bikes to a vehicle. If anybody of you have ever tried to install a bike on a vehicle, it's extremely difficult. You have these big, heavy mechanisms that attach into a rear port where you have basically your trailer hitch. They're very heavy. There's nowhere to store them when you can take them out. You can put them in your garage. It really hampers the experience. So we really thought about how can we do that. We know we still need a trailer hitch for the vehicle, but how can we expand off of that? So on R2 and R3, we have these integrated little ports that are down in the bumper that essentially you can take the bike racks, plug them in with one person, and there's a mechanical latch on there. There also has power to them, so when they're connected, you still have functional brake lights. But the great part about them is when they're not in use, once again, one person, you can take them off and fit them in the front. No tools required. That was something that we're really proud of, is because it also offers the opportunity to expand what adventure products we will have in the future. And that is core to our brand. It doesn't have to be, once again, just for bikes. We have a little storage box that we've designed as well that could be for if you have our compact kitchen there, or if you wanted to put taller items that are sticking out the back, we have gone with big plants. Really finding ways, what are things that we can do that are very easy to expand off of our customer base. So, yeah, I'm really happy you guys are here, and if there's any questions, this here is your
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges for R2 was how do we expand the brand and take all the key elements that we love about R1, but put it into a smaller, more affordable package. And with R1 was designed through edition. Like, it was our premium flagship. We got to say yes to a lot of things. With R2, we really need to think about, to get the price point down, what do we need to say no to? Because there's a lot of features in R1, but we didn't want R2 to lose the essence of the Rivian brand. So there's been a lot of discussions, a lot of debates with our engineering team, myself and RJ in the studio, really thinking about what are the key things that we need to carry over and make sure that it shows up in R2, but also feels different, right? We are intentionally building off of what is successful about R1, but really trying to narrow down what is the essence of Rivian. And that's some of the things I talked about, is that form follows function, making sure that we have ease of use, and really expanding with the definition of adventure. So I'll start with the seat folding. For that to fold, a couple of things have to happen, which we didn't show. Is one, we take the seat for it to fold forward, because there's a couple. I obviously have the steering wheel there, but when you press the button, the seat moves back. The steering wheel has to go fully forward. And one other thing that you have to do that, the headrest has got to come off. So we had to design a headrest that only meets the safety requirements, but headrest has to come off. That was the biggest challenge. It wasn't the seat folding. It was like, how do we clear it from not banging into the steering wheel? As for the steering wheel controls, it's something that I'm really excited about, because it's very, very unique for us, but extremely intuitive to use. And that for us is paramount, because as I said, there's like a lot of tendency to be like, oh, it's an EV, let's throw a bunch of tech at it in a way that's complicated and difficult. So we did a lot of testing, have a lot of different people test it and make sure, is this something that I can use instantly? And it's amazing to see just people use it. We've got a really cool demo on it, and immediately be like, oh, that's cool, I get it. Yeah, so they're on the passenger side rear. Did that for a couple of reasons. One, we did a lot of research, and specifically in left-hand drive countries in Europe, is that we saw a lot of people charging cars on the street, and you'd see anything from charging cables like wrapped over hoods to get to the other side, and we wanted to solve that. The other thing, because it's building off of our current charging network, it's in the front driver. So if you were to flip the car back into the space, it's essentially in the exact same location. And the other reason, which isn't specific to the customer, but also important for us, is wire routing. So by being able to have it there, it meant less wires, which means less weight and less cost. So it was a win-win-win for us to make that decision. No, so we've got in the A pillars, we have speakers there. We've got the mids are on either side of it, so it's not just one. There's two of them basically going out. And we have still speakers in the rear doors, mids in the rear doors, and then subwoofers below. I mean, a big one is our suspension system. I mean, the suspension system in R1 is extremely cool, extremely capable in terms of being able to raise it to 15 inches of ground clearance, and that requires air suspension, a more complex suspension system in general in terms of even just the hardware. So that's not in R2. That's one example. No, there's no air suspension. But we still want to make sure that it drives great on-road and off-road, just through a passive system. And part of that, once again, going into the architecture, is making sure we have ground clearance and approach and departure angles. I think I would say the pop glass and the drop, I think it's just, it was one of those areas we said, okay, yeah, that was addition of cost, but it was something that we intentionally did. Oh, sorry, the one other thing I forgot to mention as well was everybody really likes our split gate on R2, on R1S, being able to load things, being able to sit there, basically have a little awning there to cover you if it's raining. So once again, how can we solve that? Because we know, one, first of all, those are more expensive because you have to do two gates. Second, you wouldn't be able to do drop glass if you did that. So how did we do that? So when the gate is up, we have a little pull-out tray. So the tray that you flip up to get to the underneath storage, you actually pull out and overhangs the vehicle, and you can sit on it, load things, change your baby, whatever you want on that. Once again, it has the same feature and functionality of R1, but it did it in a way that was more cost effective for us. But then we got some additional functionality with the drop box. We have a new product that's coming that we're excited to talk about, but I can't talk about it here. So just
for R1 and R2?
For everything Rivian, and even if you're not a Rivian owner, I'll say that much. But,
we have a very quick mention in our blog post.
Yeah.
So our adventure products line of accessories are on the horizon.
Yeah, so complexity of the product offering is a big one. So making sure that our offerings that we look through our different trim levels, our optionality, really making sure that we can offer differentiality but trim it down. A lot of work went into designing R3 and R2 together to make sure as a platform, a lot of the components are shared, a lot of network architecture is obviously shared. So that just makes efficiencies not only from a manufacturing point of view, but from a supply chain point of view, and most importantly, a cost point of view to make sure we can get the price down. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, if I look at how this gate is, how this is designed. So this body side is obviously one piece. This is where the fascia cut line is, which helps us from manufacturing, but also for damageability. So when if the car gets damaged, this is just injection molded part, so it's easy to replace. I talked a little bit about not having that div bar, so it's easy to replace, but gets us a full glass drop, which saves us money. There's a lot of shared components that you can't see between the vehicles, even on the interior between R2 and R3, which is something that just makes it easier from a manufacturing point of view. So the seat frames are the same, even though they look very, very different. So the A side's different, but the mechanics behind it are the same. Steering wheel, our screen strategy is the same between the two vehicles. A lot of things like that were really looked at. It's like, how can we make sure, from a customer point of view, the vehicles are very differentiated, but from a manufacturing and supply chain point of view, there's a lot of common. So no shared sheet metal parts, but some of the things, as I mentioned, actually center console, screens, steering wheel, seat frames are the same between the two of them. That's about it. I mean, the technology we're using, the headlights are similar, although the proportions are very different. I don't know if you've noticed between R2 and R3, even versus R1, we've changed the scale of these. So for R3 and R2, they're shorter, they're wider, we add more dimensionality into the lights, they're a little bit thinner, and we carried over that design language from R2 into R3 as well. The inspiration for R3 was one of those things where we knew we really figured out like what R2 needed to be. When we started to talk about R3 and how we can expand the brand, especially when we start to think about global markets, we really want to say like, what could we do? How if we were to do a smaller, more affordable Rivian, what would it be? And the thing that I love most about R3 is I've asked quite a few people. I just asked, what kind of car would you call it? Is it a hatch? Is it an SUV? And nobody really has an answer, and that's great, because when I was first talking about this with RJ, during the conception of it, and the conversation we had is his advice is like, I don't want it to fall into a segment. I want people to just say it's an R3. And I think we've achieved that. And especially with R3X, our inspiration was soul of a rally car, something that's really fun. Hopefully you guys look at it and agree that I just look at it and be like, I don't know what it is, but I just want to drive that thing. And that was really one of our goals with that.
Looks great.
And if you look at especially competitives in the EV, not just, but also in ICE, it's a the ground clearance, approach and departure angles, and wheel and tire size is going to make it really capable. Will it have the same capability as R1? No, but dynamically on the road, it'll be better on that sense. So that's where I like to say at Rivian, we've got this dual personality, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, that ability to go on road and off road and do both. I mean, usually you get a compromise, and each vehicle. So R1, our flagship, is going to be the most capable on road. R2 is the blend both, and R3 will be the most focused on road. But all of them will have capabilities in both of them. It's just which lever do we pull for each one to offer differentiation. Yeah, as of right now, that's the plan. We like the overall feeling of it just looking very simple and have an homage to bumpers of the past that are kind of inserted inside of there. It provided a great opportunity from a graphic perspective, but also to do the air pass through. But it doesn't stop us from later on if we want to do body color or other variants. But as of right now, this is the plan for them. Well, that's the beautiful part about creating a platform. It gives us opportunities to look at other things, but I can't talk about those today.
All right, thank you so much, Jeff.
Some really nice materials here. As he was talking about, wood isn't just like an accessory. It's like thought of as like furniture. I like the screen layout. This one is very wide. It doesn't appear to be as tall as the one in the R1T, but they still have a driver's screen over on the other side. We're not allowed to like touch or sit in it. I know there were some questions about like entry and exit into the rear seats, but we're just taking a look at it, trying to get an idea of the materials. And it looks really nice. It looks Rivian. It looks like there's some really nice looking cloth here surrounding that wood accent. And then leather or pleather, we're not sure. But looks really nice. And again, one of the things that they talk about are the color combos. What do you think, Liv, the color combos in here?
Oh, it looks gorgeous. This is my first time seeing this up close, and I just loved hearing from Jeff about how they use the materials for function. It's not just aesthetic, like everything is form follows function. So the materials that you see here look beautiful, but they follow the function. So like those mats that we were just looking at, the chief designer, he's never washed his and he just brushes them out, but they're very rugged, they're very resilient. You can rinse them off, you can kick them off, and they won't retain dirt. And that's just so smart to have such a beautiful textile that's so functional. And the wood, that goes for the wood too, and the fact that the screens are actually held by the wood as well.
A couple other things, like in the R1T, there's a removable speaker in the center console that is not in the R2. They removed like the door speakers over here, and apparently there's more speakers, I believe, in the A pillar
but
to
the
make
door,
up for it.
The side of the door still flexes out, which obviously
don't touch.
But they will kick us out. It actually flexes out here, and I love that Rivian was listening to people, listening to its consumers, so they gave not one, but 2 glove boxes.
That's right. There's
It's so
two glove
cool.
boxes. We can't open them, but
We cannot.
And then another thing, everybody loves the little flashlight that's in the door. Not only does it have a flashlight, they were talking about there's going to be some other accessories coming. I believe they said like a battery pack for like your phone or something.
And they indicated there would be multiple different accessories.
Like a hand warmer as well.
Oh yeah, which for our friends in Colorado, obviously you might really enjoy that.
The other thing that's really, really, really unique, we'll do it from this side, but you can see the wheels on the steering wheel. They're really big. I couldn't tell when he was giving this presentation, but they're really big. But they give a lot of haptic feedback. So as you're going up, like adjusting the volume, it'll be like 1 or 2 clicks. But then like if you're in a menu and you get to the top of the menu, like it won't turn anymore. So it'll actually stop. Like if you are scrolling through like your playlist and you get to the top of the playlist, the scroll wheel will actually stop. So I'm a lot of times not a fan of haptic feedback, but that sounds like an excellent way of handling it.
And then if you look right at the screen there, obviously you see that really beautiful art with the Rivian, with the, I can't remember, the pop-up tent on
tent,
top.
yeah.
So Rivian's really big into accessories. They really talked about that concept, and clearly everything is going to be interchangeable between all vehicle models. So that pop-up tent looks so cool. And the fact that the R2 has hitches for a powered bike mount on the rear, so you have your brake lights and everything incorporated in it, and that it fits in the front too, which it doesn't look like it possibly could, but it's really cool.
Let's take I just want to look at the back seats.
Yeah.
Because like somebody was saying is they have a Mach-E, and they were asking like how easy would it be to get in and out of the back seat. I think this is really great. I think the door actually swings open slightly more than this. But the other thing that I think will help entry and exit is the door frame up here is like a square, so you don't like a lot of the new like crossover SUVs. That line swoops down, makes it very difficult to get in, like in the Mach-E. I think this will be a lot easier to get in and out of than some of the smaller Model Y, ID4.
Oh, certainly. And I love seeing that they included the little hooks on the back of the seats, which is a feature that's really cool in the R1S and the R1T. I've seen a lot of people like hook their water bottles or their headphones or whatever things. It's just a cool thing to have there. So they talked a lot about how they minimized the expense but kept a lot of function as well. So something I'm really interested that we didn't get an answer for is whether the storage under the seats is still there. Which, a little secret, you probably know this, but there's storage under the seats in the R1T and R1S.
And I wanted to also mention, so like the headrest, they talked about these seats will actually fold forward in case you need to fold the front seats forward. And over on the driver's side, of course, if you fold it forward, that headrest is going to be in the way. But they had to figure out a way to make those easily removable, but still safety oriented. Oh, they opened up the charge port. Sorry, I'm getting interrupted here. There we go. I want to get out of that guy's shadow.
Look how cute that little charge port is. It's so adorable.
So it does have NACS, and it is on the right rear. So that they explained that's to fit in with their current Rivian charging network. It will make it so that if they are charging at a Tesla supercharger, it's still going to be a bit of a challenge for some V3s because it'll still be like on the wrong side. But because it's so far back behind the rear wheel, I think it will not be as much of an issue as some other vehicles like the Lightning and the Mach-E that we have just started experiencing it. And they also said this month for R1T and R1S owners, they will have access to the supercharger network.
Yeah, and they mentioned their incentive for placing it on this side is for so many situations where there's charging on the street, instead of people having to drape their tables over, which they actually watch people doing this. They're really learning from how people use objects. So this was a very intentional placement.
He said something that I thought was really interesting. They mentioned the European market. That's been one of the big questions because the R1s are not available in Europe, but the fact that they're talking about the R1S, the R2 and the European market is really exciting. I know a lot of people in Europe are going to be thrilled to see this.
And we know that all our European friends obviously want smaller vehicles, more petite. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
So perhaps you guys will be more interested in, well, personally the R3, which we should go and have a little peek at right now.
And we can actually see this
rear,
now. Yeah. How much rear space there is quite a bit. And then of course, like, what is this thing? We can't sit on it, but we have seen them sit on this.
And we have some B-roll of that. So, and they would not confirm what the weight capacity is, but a fully grown man was just sitting on this, so it seemed pretty good. But there is also storage under there as well.
Right.
And the cool thing that they were referencing was that since this isn't a truck, obviously you don't have the rail to put stuff on, but they wanted people to have somewhere where they could like change their baby or put their coffee or whatever things. Like, this is a useful surface that a lot of people will use.
And while Liv was talking, of course, I zoomed in on the fact that there's a 110 outlet over here. We have a lot of weird shadows because it's under like show lights, but it looks like there's a door that slides. There's a couple USB ports. There's some hooks toward the rear. There's hooks there. There's hooks up front. A lot of different little storage things. There's a place to put a privacy screen. And then, of course, just the overall rear hatch. The rear window drops down, but it also has a lot of flexibility. I think they may be closing it.
And actually, if you see right here, this is also a fold-out table. So when this rear window pops down, imagine this is closed, pops down, then you can fold this table up. So you can do things like have a tailgate party and then put your beverages or your food or whatever it is inside the vehicle. And then if you look over here, they also made it so that this window pops out. They were talking a lot about like bringing the outdoor space in so that your vehicle is like you're in the outdoors.
It's all really exciting stuff. We're just because we have limited time, we're going to spin around and talk about the other surprise, or the first surprise, and that was the R3. We're going to walk around on the other side. Everybody wants to see the R2. Now, they won't open these up because these are coming out a little bit behind the R2.
I love it so much. I love it so much.
So when this came out, what was your reaction? Like, just
my jaw dropped. We were both on opposite sides. Patrick was behind me. I was over there just because we got split up. And literally, I think we might have footage of both of our jaws just like dropping. It was just...
When we say jaw dropping, it was a literal jaw drop.
Yeah.
I was super excited to see this rolled out.
This is my dream car, pretty much.
I thought they might do an R2T, but
yeah,
I like this way better.
And the fact that everyone sort of saw the leak and they thought that we knew what was coming with the R2. This was a surprise to everyone. There were gasps all over. So now here it is. Have a look at it. Look at how much more petite it is. And like we said before, the big focus was keeping function, but seeing what they could reduce while still making it an amazing vehicle. And
so somebody already online, like looking at the rear, they were going like, oh, it looks like an Ioniq 5 competitor. But it's different. Like it's a bit smaller.
Yeah.
But the Ioniq 5 does give me that like hot hatch vibe. So this is way more hot hatch. And by the way, like I think the rear is just so interesting.
I love this car. I love this so much.
I think for us, the size is really appropriate. I'm really excited to see this. They really didn't give like zero specs. It's basically, I don't know if we mentioned, but the R2 is going to be starting at 45. This I would expect to be slightly less, not a ton less, because it still, has a big battery and motors and everything. But I would expect it to be under 45, at least for this version. And the front looks like a Rivian, but this back, I love the light bar going all the way across the back. And then this is underappreciated, I think. Not that anybody's been talking about it yet, but the way the letters, like there's a lot
three-dimensional
to that, and it just looks really, really good.
And they mentioned like retro design and also replaceability. So not going to touch it, but the rear and front bumpers being plastic and injection molded parts so that if you do get dinged or whatever, it's not super costly to replace. So it's not just a more affordable vehicle. It's a more affordable repair. Are they doing something cool we should be watching?
I think they're just talking about different things.
They're just talking. Well, it's quiet over here, so we're going to stay over here.
Do we want to? We got to show the front. Actually, let's just show the front of the other surprise,
the next
R3X. And this is the one, this is like instead of one more thing, there's two more things. Look at the hair color.
It's my car. It's my car.
She likes the R3, and I was like, we should do the R3X.
I'm just trying to be cost effective because I'm sure this is going to be more expensive. This is more of a performance version. Obviously, it has, what do we call them, tow hooks?
Tow hooks up front, a little bit of fun accent coloring, including on the mirrors, and then a couple little extra details here. Over on the other R3, I think it's in yellow.
And they only have, obviously you see this is for air venting, performance aspect. So they have this on the front and the rear.
Let me try to show that.
For the R3X. And they only have it on the front for the R3. Still cool though.
It just looks really cool, really compact. And because like the beefy tires, like how much ground clearance this has, I think it looks like it's just a ton of fun waiting to happen. We don't know range, we don't know battery size, we don't know, pretty much anything about this.
And we probably won't for a while because this is going to be far out. So they said that 2026 is when the R2 is expected to be available. It's obviously open for reservations right now, and that this would be shortly after.
Shortly after, and
Shortly
that's
after.
automaker terms. That could be summer, that could be the next year. So it's really hard to know and tell. And again, the 3D treatment of the Rivian name there, and then
Oh, that does look good.
the R3X.
It's so good.
It just looks like it's going to be so much fun. But I don't know. I was really impressed by the whole event. The fact that we were here for the R2 and everybody's really excited by that. I had a little bit of hope that there would be an R2T, but the fact that there's not, I'm not
too.
disappointed because
No.
this is sort of what we were excited about size-wise.
And should we flippity flip?
Yeah, we're going to
Okay,
flippity flip,
good.
our new thing.
And apparently the flippity flip's okay. You guys
But
have said
I
it's
should've
all
just-
right. So let us know. Yeah, I know. I was also expecting an R2T. There's a lot of letters
Yeah.
and numbers, but I'm not sad at all. An SUV is just a bit more functional for a lot of people. It's easier to keep your vehicle safe, the truck bed, without having a bed. So I'm excited.
So it's you probably know, like, one of the vehicles that we were excited about is the Volvo EX30. Liv has a reservation. It's smaller than the Mach-E, so we're like, this would be a good second vehicle. But it's bigger than the EX30, but it has a lot going for it. It looks like it's going to be more costly, but it has a driver's screen, so that's a huge bonus. But it's a bit bigger, so that's also nice. I just love the styling. I really like the styling.
The styling's amazing, and interestingly, obviously in our case with the two vehicles we're looking at, both Volvo and Rivian have a focus on materials. Volvo, of course, with sustainable materials with B Comp and their partnership with them. But Rivian talked a lot about how they wanted everything to feel luxury, but to not be, right? So it's like luxury that you can live with, luxury that you can beat up. And that's very much what this feels like. Like, I don't know what other vehicles we might have that feel like you could look good, feel good, and get dirt on it. Because I'm personally that person that's gonna get hair color or dirt on whatever. And like a Rivian feels like the kind of vehicle that can handle that and look great. It's so pretty.
And just overall, like, we have some newer brands that are out there, including Rivian and Lucid and stuff like that. I really like what Rivian is doing with their brand. It's like this adventure vehicle and mindset. And it seems like that's flowing through to their centers, across now 3 different vehicles, 1 in production, 2 coming. I guess it's actually 2 if you consider R1T and R1S. But I really think it's flowing through and it's showing up so that even if you have the R3, it's going to be a lower cost version, or lower cost than the R2, which is lower cost than R1, but it feels very consistent and on brand, and not like you're like losing out. They talked about they had to make some compromises, like you lose the removable speaker that you can pull out, but it doesn't feel like you're losing that feeling of the Rivian brand.
Yeah, the materials, that solidness and the beautiful incorporation of metal and wood and textiles is consistent throughout. Their branding is just so good. It's so good.
It feels like a Rivian. And,
Yeah.
And that, again, that's like one of the things, like, for example, the Volvo EX30, like you get that feel that it's a Volvo, but it feels like, to be honest, like a cheap Volvo.
It does feel a bit less.
And
yeah.
I won't say cheap, I'll say inexpensive.
I mean, you're
'Cause
just
it's
like
still
crushing on the R2, R3 right now.
R2, R3, both.
We did put a reservation in for the R2. We both discussed that because we were always looking for that smaller SUV for me. If you don't know, my previous car was a 98 RAV4 that we had to get rid of because it wouldn't pass emissions in California. I would drive that thing until it fell apart. I loved it. I feel like this is the modern version of a 98 RAV4.
And so, like, immediately when the reservations opened, before we actually even saw it, I was like, let me just go ahead and put in a reservation. It's refundable.
And we
blah, blah,
talked
blah.
about that.
And yeah, just because you never know, and it's 2026, which might be the right time for us to consider something.
Save up some cash.
But looking at it now, it is still a bit bigger than the Mach-E, slightly bigger.
It is.
So I think the Mach-E is more appropriate our size and a complementary smaller vehicle. But let us know like what you think, like what size vehicle. We were having a conversation outside about like the different sizes of vehicles that people want, and the R1S for some people is just too big because they might have a truck that does their hauling. It might be an R1T.
And that was actually, I think we can say it was Ben Sellens who was talking about that.
Yeah.
He mentioned that the R1T was a bit too large for their lifestyle, and that the R2 is going to replace their Model Y.
Right.
Yeah. Are we allowed to say that aloud?
I forget all of the details.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like the R2 is a great replacement if you want something, because it's actually interesting because it feels a bit bigger than a Model Y, Mach-E, etc. But of course, the Model Y is technically a 7-seater, and that will only be, they confirmed it's only a 5-seater. So.
I'm so sorry, by the way. Of course, we are showing you the R3 because the R2 is on the other side, and that's where everyone is swarming.
Well, you can see everybody over there.
Yeah, the R2 bigger, still more petite than the R1S, but I'm of course so crushing on the R3.
Yeah.
I wish that was coming sooner.
Hey, so this sort of goes back to. We cover this stuff as enthusiasts and as potential owners. So we will show, like we're excited. We were here super excited for the R2. I'm sure that's what Rivian is like. Focus on the R2. But hey, they brought up the R3, and this is our true enthusiasm for that and excitement.
And by the way, talking about Rivian and their brand, I really do love what they're doing. They talked a lot about their what do they call it? It's not their flagships, it's their locations. Like right now we're in a beautifully restored theater that right now is being used for this whole thing, but during the week, during normal times, as Jordan of Outer Spec just zipped by filming, during normal times, this is a theater. It's used for community things. Like I think they show movies here, and they have community events, and that's something that they do at a lot of their different facilities. And we heard a lot of people respond to the way that Rivian did this whole event. And there was a lot of talk of how welcoming it was, how comforting, and how it was more about what it can do for you. So like in showing their towing, they showed, I think it was an R1T.
Yeah, R1T.
Towing a semi off the road that had slipped off the road, towing a semi back onto the road. So that's the kind of awesome stuff that we want to see, is like, what can you do with your vehicle? It wasn't aggression, it was inclusion. And I really like that.
Yeah, very, very good overall branding. Really excited by the R1T and R1S that are currently out. We're excited to see the R2. 2026 sounds a long time away, but this is about appropriate. If you're in the automotive industry, it takes a long time to go through and test and get things out. And if you're controlling your brand, you'd rather go make a big reveal like this so people can see it, get excited for it.
I'm
because
excited.
Soon it's going to be out there in camouflage and out there testing, because that's what you should do before you put it out in customers' hands. So we're going to start seeing this out and about. Maybe next year they'll do some more events with an actual production vehicle or pre-production vehicle. And
hopefully we'll be able
this is step one of the excitement. And then of course, it's automotive terms. So they said shortly after that would be the R3. That could be months to years. We'll
I hope
see.
it's months. I do.
And if we find out, anything about reservations, we'll let you know. But right now, you can reserve the R2. So
we can head out now. I love that there are tons of cool content creators behind us. Kim Java's making stuff. Jordan's there. Ben Sellens. 2-Bit Da Vinci. Everyone's excited about this. So if you are too, let us know down below. There's obviously a lot of other content that you can watch. But what else? Nothing?
Yeah, that's it. Just actually, since we're talking about 2024, 2025, 2026, that's like 3 years. There's a lot of cars that are coming out, some announced, some that you may be suspecting. Like, what are you excited that's not out right now that may be coming out? Like from Ford, T3, low budget EV, we don't know.
T3 and R3. I mean, it's
T3
a good
and
thing
R3.
to it.
Ooh.
I know. T3, R3 vlog.
By the way, my only disappointment today, and I'm sure it's a licensing thing, but I wanted to see an R2D2, but But hey,
Well, and Patrick did a AI rendering.
I did an AI
It was
rendering.
really cute. Oh my gosh. Patrick, his arm is
My
about
arm
to
is gonna fall
fail.
off.
We should go. We're so excited to be here at the Rivian R2 event, grand reveal, and surprise, R3 and R3X. Let us know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for joining us. A big thank you to our patrons. We appreciate you guys so very much. You watching and subscribing and liking, all of you got us here because it's a big deal to be here and we appreciate it so much. And like, subscribe, whatever, other things.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
just remember that whatever you drive, whether it's an R2 or an R3 or beyond, enjoy the ride.
Bye.
Bye.